'Cause it's just loose lips. I chat better than I sing, so go ahead and enjoy.
Because I was always like obsessed with the vibe. The vibe is the most important thing to me, and if the music is no good, the whole vibe is affected. So I have control issues with music and the vibe, and so I would always just be on top of that. And before I knew it, I was like DJing parties in the city, and then I opened this illegal venue spot with some friends of mine in 2009, and that kind of got me a lot of connections with party throwers and other DJs,
What
and
was
that's
that
kind of
scene like? What was that scene like? That DIY scene, you know? We hear stories of Brooklyn, and what I'm finding really like incredible to understand is from the 80s and the 90s when the hip hop sort of underground scene was
hmm
coming through, to then now hear about another underground scene that was coming through with this explosion of empty warehouses. You know, we because it's not publicized, and New York
right.
is such a mecca of creativity and life and vibrancy that's going on in the city. If you're not on the ground involved in these worlds, especially when you're at the other side of the planet, like you sort of miss out on these. So can you take us through that sort of warehouse stage of New York?
That was the vibe. It was very wild. It was awesome, and all the other warehouses in Williamsburg, Greenpoint, and Bushwick they were all up to the same thing. So House of Yes was doing the same thing too, and so you kind of knew. Um, and yeah, it was a magical time. They have cracked down since on that, and but I have to say that it was interesting because the city passed some zoning laws at the time that allowed people to live in warehouses like that. They made it easier for people to live, and that was great. What really changed was that the developers, as always, started picking up on what was going on, and so they started buying up these warehouses and converting them into like legal living spaces. And once you have that kind of thing happen, people start to complain about noise and people congregating and all sorts of the usual shit. So that has kind of moved away. I know that there's some stuff still going on, but generally not. Also, a couple of years ago, there was a massive fire in California at the Ghost Ship, which was a venue like this, and the cops here cracked down as well. There was also a local crew that throws parties called City Fox, and they got shut down on Halloween. They tried to throw a massive Halloween party at a Superfund site. Superfund is basically buildings or sites that have been poisoned from whether it was, a factory. I think it was a factory that they tried to throw it in, and it was just like, the government's trying to clean that site up. So to throw a party there is wildly irresponsible. So they got shut down, and the cops at that point started really cracking down on this. So that scene has kind of like disappeared. And I really miss it because there was a moment where you could just like go to all these amazing warehouse parties, and it was totally, ridiculous and free. I suspect that there's stuff like that happening right now in Jersey City and other cities near New York City that people have been moving to because the rents are cheaper. So
Do you find that you were a part of the pulse of the city at that time? Did it feel really, electric? You were on the cusp of something so wild and big, but so secretive as well and underground.
I didn't feel that way. I was so zoomed in on what I was doing that I didn't really think about that, other than when sometimes I'd like be standing at the back of the room or outside because we had this out, and look at all these people, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. We have all these people coming into our spot having an amazing time. That's really cool. But I never really thought of it. Now when I look back, I know that I was part of that scene. But at the time I wasn't. I was just like, holy shit. And also it was very stressful because there was a constant fear that someone would get hurt, or the cops would come, or just like there's just like a lot of shit like that. So it was like stressful trying to pay the rent. So I didn't really see it that way, until a few years later. And now when I see like how it led to where I am now.
Do you think, because as you say in this, it sounds like there could be almost like a book written about it. Like, were the photos taken, and do you think that that time should be documented?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be great. Actually, there's a lot of people that were responsible for different spaces like this, like House of Yes and my place, and there was a place called Shea Stadium and the Market Hotel and Ruby Lot, which was like basically the inventor of this in New York City, in Brooklyn for this era. I think there's definitely a lot of stories to be told there. I know that a lot of these places have amazing stories, and everyone is really responsible for moving the club scene from Manhattan to Brooklyn. Like this basically moved it. The club scene in Manhattan right now is basically dead. There's barely anything there. It's because of this.
Was that quite high end when that was happening anyway? Did that feel quite an exclusive, you know, in Manhattan? That's the impression I'd get from like downtown Manhattan.
Yes,
to what it'd be like in Brooklyn.
Yes and no. It depends where, but like it used to be like you went to the meatpacking district, which was high end and not, but it was just like very basic and mostly just like pop music and you know, regular like club stuff. And then there were different parts of Manhattan where it was exclusive, but the music was really good and more underground. But yeah, if you went over to Brooklyn, it was like no bottle service, a dirty warehouse, people just there just to dance, nothing exclusive. And that was really fun and nice. Now it's kind of, it's turning almost into Manhattan, the club scene here. So, but at House of Yes, we still try to keep that spirit alive. You know, we have like bottle service, which helps pay the bills, but we really try to keep that live, dirty, kind of chaotic feeling going. And, you know, I'd like to think that we do, you know, so.
'Cause it's just loose lips.